welcome to Bill Mason Show. Hey, Bill.
Hey, how's everybody? Welcome to the Thursday edition. And the battle for liberty is still raging in this country.
Oh, yes, definitely raging. And in Houston, we have a problem, too, because
Yeah,
looks like
absolutely.
China, we're closing a consulate in China, well, not in China, but in Houston,
Yeah.
with China. So it looks like they're espionage, or they're trying to get secrets from the oil and gas companies, all kind of stuff. What do you think, Bill?
Yeah, and honestly, the way I've heard the Chinese reacting, they're offended. They're like, "How dare you?" Meanwhile, they're
Mm,
burning papers in like giant 55-gallon drums.
yeah.
Like, how dare you accuse us of illegal activities?
Right, the fire department showed up. It was a big plume of smoke
Yeah,
going out of the place.
yeah.
We have video of that. We're going to show that. We're going to see what's going on there. Also, we have later on tonight, we have the chaos, the violence in Portland still.
Still.
Yeah, and we have kids marching and all kind of crazy stuff. So we're going to go over all that.
Yep.
Let's take a look at the burning of the documents in Houston by China.
Yeah, just normal burning.
Yeah, no big deal. Just look
No big
the
deal.
other way.
Yeah.
Let's take a look.
So this consulate is basically a front.
The diplomat.
Yeah, it looks normal.
Yeah, there they are. So
Maybe they're cooking.
it could be. This is after the fire was put out right here, but
Yeah.
he's going to show a little bit more. There we go.
They could have been, smoking some meat, cooking. You never know. You can't really make judgments based on giant 55-gallon drums full of fire.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of
Yeah,
weird. I
little
guess,
flare-ups here and there,
I guess they had to have it out in the open so it wouldn't burn the building down.
Yeah, because it was a big enough fire, and it was a lot of it. It was 4 or 5 55-gallon drums.
Right, go on. Yeah, they're like a assembly line. They were just throwing the documents in there.
Yeah, boxes of documents. So anyway, I mean, we have some high-tech people, man. I'm not saying they're gonna piece together like burnt, paper, but if they got hard drives in there, we got people that'll find what's on them. I read the Snowden book, and you really can't, even unless you Hillary Clinton that stuff, it's still there.
Yeah, I heard there's some cell phones there they mashed with a hammer.
Oh, I'm
like
sure
Hillary
they probably did because
Oh, yeah.
they probably learned from Hillary.
Oh yeah.
Way back when you really want evidence dead, you Hillary your phone.
Yeah, Hillary was probably there, probably helping them out.
Well, I can only imagine if she wasn't there live, she was there on maybe a Huawei phone of some sort.
Right. All right, we're going to listen to Mark Rubio about what's going on in Houston. Take a look.
Okay.
Consulate is basically a front for it's kind of the central node of a massive spy operation, commercial espionage, defense espionage, also influence agents to try to influence Congress. They use businessmen as fronts in many cases to try to influence members of Congress and other political leaders at the state and local level. And so it's long overdue that it be closed. What will happen is the Secretary of State probably already has demarched the ambassador, basically called them in, told them we're going to do this, told them why. Given their agents that we know who they are, 72 hours to leave the country. If they don't leave within 72 hours, they'll be arrested as spies. And then what will happen is they'll, and you'll see this all the time. Every country does it when your embassy or consulate is closed. They start destroying everything in there. They have a plan of destruction. So they'll, for us, the Marines are in charge of doing that if someone closes our embassy. So they'll burn documents and shred documents and destroy computers and so forth. We saw something similar in San Francisco. And now what will happen is the Chinese will respond reciprocally. They'll close one of our facilities somewhere in China, probably Wuhan, as they've outlined.
There we go. There's no one in Wuhan anyway.
I honestly, I can't imagine Trump wasn't prepared for this. So, he seems to be a guy who puts like ducks in a row, and probably already had people ready to evacuate, China, especially these certain cities like Shanghai and Wuhan. Right. So if I was on the ambassadorship of Wuhan, I'd be like, thank you.
Oh yeah, let's get out of here.
Let's get out and see ya. You know, the difference is when we leave, I doubt we're going to be burning buckets full of documents. There's a big difference between the way we operate and they operate, and it's weird that no matter what Trump does, the Democrats defend it. Like I've heard Democrats already defending how this is a xenophobic, racist thing versus China. He's trying to divert the virus statistics and all of this stuff, but honestly, with the amount of intellectual property and stuff that they've been stealing, he's probably got a good reason to get them out of there. You know, like Marco Rubio said, it's not just normal Chinese dignitaries in that place. It's lobbyists and, you know, people that are spying on, you know, Lockheed Martin and all these other people and working for universities who get contracts to do software and stuff like that. Like people don't realize that a lot of universities do a lot of work for the government, you know, under contract, and they sneak in under the radar as a university, some sort of, you know, foreign exchange student of some sort, and get to work on software that targets, you know, drones or something of that nature. I'm making, you know, just things up right now, but they infiltrate our you know, strategic stuff, and then we lose it. It's a big deal.
It is. It is, definitely. So let's take a look at this other video about China and what's going on. Take a look.
All right.
The diplomatic crisis sparked by the closing of China's consulate in Houston, Texas, has now pivoted to another state, California, where the FBI says the San Francisco consulate there is harboring a researcher affiliated with the Chinese military. The FBI says it believes that a woman, Juan Tang, had served in the Chinese military but claimed she didn't on her visa application, which they say is fraud. There are espionage concerns. Juan worked at the University of California. The news comes just a day after the U.S. ordered China's Houston consulate to close, quote, to protect American intellectual property and private information, without giving specifics. Senator Marco Rubio, the acting chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, is saying that the Houston consulate was a central node of the Chinese Communist Party's espionage and influence operations. Fire trucks were seen at the building on reports that staff were burning documents there before closure. China has not said how it may retaliate, but a source has told Reuters that China is considering shutting the U.S. consulate in Wuhan, where the United States withdrew staff during the coronavirus outbreak. There was also speculation in a Communist Party tabloid that the U.S. Hong Kong consulate could be closed, also on espionage concerns. China's state media said in editorials on Thursday that the order to shut the Houston consulate is an attempt to blame Beijing for White House failures ahead of the November presidential election.
All right, so that's it. So anyway, so failures at Trump about the election, that's crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, here we go with the things that people talk about when they say Donald Trump, and they immediately say that everything he does has some sort of, you know, xenophobic, racist motivation because he's this deep, dark, terrible person. And what you don't talk about is that imagine if Hillary Clinton was in office and there was Chinese consulates popping up all over the place, and hey, you know what I mean? Like, guess what? You know, a little town in Florida needs one too.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe, you know, over here. I mean, that's the difference between Trump and Hillary, is that they were Chinese apologists, and Trump is not, because he's trying to keep this country safe, secure. Like, the overall theme of this show is like Trump is securing the nation. Not only with borders, not only with intellectual property, but when the Democratic mayors drop the ball, he's like, okay, here I guess I have to, you know, help defend these poor defenseless taxpayers who are victims of Chicago street violence. And the mayor's like, nothing to see here, you know, we're good. I mean, this is something that I think everybody that is a Trump supporter like myself, I'm like, that's why I voted for him, right there. That's why.
Right.
You know, no other reason. And all the other stuff like, oh, he's callous and he's brash, and did you hear the way he talks to people? Don't care.
Right.
That's why. That is the reason why I hired the guy.
Yeah.
Or you know, voted for him.
Right. We're hiring him. We did the same.
Or hired him. However you want to look at it. You know, I
So anyway, yeah. So I mean, China. I mean, Trump's trying to protect us against China. China's trying to take our companies away, trying to get our intellectual property away. So he's
Right.
trying to protect us from all that, and of course we're demonizing them. So and of course he's trying to protect our city. So about our cities now, they're marching and they're bringing kids in this thing. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's very strange that I can't imagine bringing young children into this kind of situation. I almost don't even want, if I had a young kid that young, I wouldn't want them to watch it on TV,
no,
let alone be there.
no, and saying profanity too as well.
Yeah, teaching them,
Yeah,
teaching them how to.
to say it right. So let's take a look at this video. You're gonna shake your head, but let's take a look.
Yeah,
They are. All right, watch out.
Show 'em your sign.
All right.
You fuck the police.
What is it?
Fuck the police.
All right.
Fuck the police.
Say it. Can you do the? Put your hands up,
You
all
fuck the
right?
police.
All right. Power to the people. Power.
Oh my
Man.
gosh. Oh man.
this is really happening. Sometimes I'm in a bizarro world
Yeah.
where I say it can't get any worse than this.
No.
Yeah, here
I
we
mean,
are.
power to the people. I mean, they don't understand that the local police is how you elect the local commissioner most of the time,
Yeah.
police commissioner, the mayor who's in charge of police. You vote
Yeah.
these people in, so they're the ones who can make the change.
Right.
There's
And
no other way.
believe me, Trump. This was a last resort because, like we always talked about since the very beginning of the Bill Mason show, is that Trump is trying to play both sides of the coin. So let's just say Trump does nothing, and then it becomes Trump just watched his country burn. He fiddled while it burned, the little Nero that he is. Okay, so it's like if he doesn't do anything, he faces that scrutiny.
Right.
When he does mount up a DHS force or something like that, he faces scrutiny for that. If he does nothing versus somebody, like for example, there's people now saying like, well, he pulled troops out of Syria and that emboldened Turkey and all of these things. So it was like, if he left troops or he put a surge of troops in Syria, then it would have been like he's a warmonger. So I mean, he really walks this dangerous line where everything's got to be like pretty calculated. And so far, I think he's won over some independents, and that's something that Democrats don't want to talk about. Is that he's winning black votes, he's winning Latino votes, he's winning Asian votes, and even the suburban white people that were on the fence. Like they talk about the suburban moms that really were hating Trump. They hated his, grab him by the what. They hated his locker room talk. They hated how he treated women and he talked down to them. All those things that they brought up. Now they're saying, well, at least he's for law and order, while this guy I elected is going to let, BLM people burn my front lawn.
Right.
So he's winning those people. And these polls that come out where it's like Biden's ahead by 11 points. We pulled a bunch of 20-year-olds in the protest, like right now. We just pulled those guys.
Right.
So I'm not worried about poll numbers. I think Trump is very strategic. And yes, he's made some stumbles. He's listened to some people, like everybody screamed about when the virus happened, that he didn't listen to Fauci when Fauci said, oh, there's no need to shut down travel. That's crazy. And then 2 months later, they were like, that's a pretty good idea. That's probably clutch. So they keep putting the ball in his hands. He's like the quarterback. And, he's getting chastised for short passes, long passes, incomplete passes. It doesn't matter. Every time he touches the ball, they're going to criticize him. So he is amazingly skating through this with those voters that are out there protesting. They were never going to support Trump. Honestly, I don't think he could turn those people over and turn those liberal leftist Marxist types to ever vote for Donald Trump. So I just consider that a loss. But it's the important people, the independents that were on the fence about Trump, that watched him for 4 years outperform any expectations, and amongst some other things that popped up like a virus, and we could have gotten to a war with Iran, which he handled amazingly. You know what I mean? And I think that is the thing that's going to win him an election. And honestly, I think he's really pulling it off.
Yes, I think so too. So Let's take what he said about Chicago, how he's going to have a surge of troops going into Chicago to
Yeah.
fix that mess in Chicago. Take a look.
Against Lightfoot's will.
Go ahead.
Announcing that the Department of Justice will immediately surge federal law enforcement to the city of Chicago. The FBI, ATF, DEA, U.S. Marshal Service, and Homeland Security will together be sending hundreds of skilled law enforcement officers to Chicago to help drive down violent crime. But we must remember that the job of policing a neighborhood falls on the shoulders of local elected leadership. Never forget that. When they abdicate their duty, the results are catastrophic.
There you go. So that's true. I mean, Chicago is a war zone. We decided not to show the shooting in Chicago at the funeral.
Yeah.
We had video of that, but we did not show it. So, out of courtesy to our listeners.
Yeah, and you know what? It's really hard to pick and choose how much gore or shock value you really need to get the point across. I think the people that live in those cities, like some of our viewers that maybe live in rural areas that don't realize that there are people in Chicago that are literally being terrorized in their own neighborhoods. They have streets they can't go down. They have areas they can't shop anymore because of this stuff that goes on. And the mayors are so soft-footed on it that they force Trump's hand. Like I said, if he did nothing, they would bring up, oh, the murders in Chicago were off the charts this year. At least now he could be like, hey, I sent in people to Chicago. I tried. You know, I made an effort. And you know, if this becomes the new thing where the Democrats are going to point out the fact that he's sending in jackbooted thugs and like all of this stuff, all of the records are there to show that it was necessary to do it. It's not like he just helicoptered guys into small town USA and started rounding people up. They had months and months of murder going off the charts. And in Portland, he let them go for 40-something days before he sent in those guys. And the courthouse, I don't know if anybody paid attention to it, but spray painted, broken. They ripped down fences. They literally like ripped off where the fire department would actually hook up to. If there was a fire in the building, they have a valve on the outside where the truck can go directly in and plug in. They filled it with concrete. I mean, this is something that like you're trapping people in a place they could die. So this is terrorism. So he had to step in, you know, and these mayors are just going to point out the fact that, oh, it's unconstitutional. Well, those poor people that can't defend themselves right now, that have no mayor and no police, and, you know, what are they going to do? They have constitutional rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness.
Yeah, and we showed those videos, by the way, Tuesday show about the courthouse on fire and spray painted and all kinds of stuff. So let's take a look at
vandalized, terrible.
Yeah. So let's take a look at Lightfoot, Mayor Lightfoot of Chicago. She's saying that she doesn't want the troops there to save her city.
You know what I was thinking when I was looking at Mayor? I was looking at Mayor Lightfoot today, and I was like, she must have been a knockout when she was younger. Just kidding.
Yeah. All right, let's take a look.
Okay.
On all Chicagoans, that if you see something that doesn't look right, please don't hesitate to report it. Call 911, call 311. We are going to remain diligent, and if we see any steps out of line, particularly with DHS or Border Patrol, we are not going to hesitate to take the president to court and stop any unconstitutional actions.
Marius, won't she take the gangs to court so you stop the killing?
That's the thing. So I was just thinking that while I was listening, that she's encouraging people to be vigilant. If you see something, say something like let's get these people out of here. Well, why didn't that happen 5 years ago in Chicago?
Right. Like if you see something, say something about the gangs, the killings. Yes.
Yeah. You see, that's the thing. I mean, honestly, you know, being in close proximity to a big city and having to work in some big cities before, there are neighborhoods that you're basically a hostage. Like you really can't speak out because you have to live in a row of homes where they know where you live. And if the cops pull up and they knock on your door and all of a sudden you're talking and then a bunch of people get arrested, you're dead. I mean, that's just the way it is. So, I mean, some of those people in Chicago are probably going, yes, with him bringing in the heavies. And I mean, they'll probably bring in, people that aren't going to be instigators, but probably just a show of force, I would imagine. Maybe a lot of helicopters. Helicopters do the job, pretty well. Maybe some boots on the ground, but I mean, I don't think he really wants to risk DHS lives and FBI lives either. If it does, he wants to get it before it gets out of hand, where it's not only gang violence and shootings, but protests and where you can't even move in the city. So you have to analyze the time and the place and all of these things. He has access to information. And all of these little individual mayors, they may have, crime statistics and stuff like that. But Trump's looking at the big picture, which he has to. That's why we hired him. He looks at the big picture. So if that's a hot spot or an ember, then I guess he's going to have to pull that off. And you know what? There's going to be some sour grapes with some Democrats in Chicago. But like I said, he's not going to win those Democrats in Chicago anyway. He's trying to win the regular voter. Not these dyed-in-the-wool leftists. You're never going to get them anyway.
No. I mean, just to let listeners know, just in case you didn't know, all these mayhem protests, violent protests, are happening in Democratic cities.
Everywhere.
So it's not happening in Republican cities at all.
No, and here's the thing, and if this goes down in Chicago, you know whose numbers are next? New York. Mm-hmm. New York's crime rate is off the chart. They took $1 billion away from New York City police. It triggered 400 high up resignations, captains, lieutenants that decided to retire. They were like, there's no way, whatever. And this effect that it's having on New York City is what's also triggering what we talked about last show. People are leaving in droves of these big cities. Now, how I want them to leave, and I know this may sound a little crass, I want them to leave remembering why they left. Why did you leave that city? Don't move to southern Florida with your liberal leftist stupid views that got you there and start voting like that in Florida. Don't ruin Texas because you ran from Los Angeles or something like that. Like, remember why you left, liberals. That's my thing. You left for a reason. It's because they blew it.
Yeah, we should do a show. We call it "Remember Why You Left."
Yeah, don't go to these new states that are running nice and clean and start voting like a leftist Marxist.
Right.
Because it just, oh my God, I've seen it happen, man. I'm watching it happen in Pennsylvania. To be honest with you, I'm watching people come from New York and move into the Pocono regions and the mountain regions and get acreage and spend their New York money here and bring their leftist ideals to rural Pennsylvania, and lo and behold, you get a guy like Tom Wolfe. I mean, this is where we're at. So you got to hold on to your state, man, and I think that's the problem with liberals is they fly at the first sign of trouble and they get out of their state and then they move somewhere else because they can afford it. They are literally like we talked about it before, like economically mobile. Like they don't have to wait to sell their house. They could just buy another house and like wait for that one to sell. A lot of people aren't in that position. And these guys from New York are doing it in droves. Like listings are up 700%, and Philadelphia as well. Philadelphia people are moving to the mountains now. I mean, it's crazy.
All right. Well, let's take a look and see what Trump said about Biden.
All right.
And you know what? If Biden got in, that would be true for the country. The whole country would go to hell. And we're not going to let it go to hell. Thank you very much, everybody.
Short, sweet, and accurate.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It would. I mean,
Yeah.
Biden was talking about the other day about, I think it was yesterday. He said they should teach Islam in school.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what about Christianity? What about, there's other religions. Why just Islam?
I really don't get it. It's almost like you see the puppet strings being pulled. Like it really is become like Weekend at Bernie's, that movie where the guy was actually dead and they took him around to parties.
Yeah,
It's almost like Weekend at Biden's. He is like brain dead. They prop him up and they're like, talk about Muslims, and he's like, you know what I mean? It's getting to the point where he really looks like this propped up puppet. and everybody has to defend him. Like these Democrats, a lot of them are like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm defending this clown, but he's all we got, you know. And then I watched this other lady on TV who was getting a short interview, like local news here, Philadelphia resident, who's like, I have to vote Biden. I don't want to, but I have to. And then the lady's like, oh, really? And she's like, because Trump's just mean. I mean, that's the mentality of these people, is that they would rather vote in a totally incompetent person because Trump's mean.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's very mean. All right. All right. So let's take a look at Portland. So we saw the tear gassing of Portland. The mayor was there, actually.
Yeah, he tried to make a showing, maybe trying to garner some support.
Yeah, and he's a Democrat, by the way, just in case people.
Oh yeah, dyed in the wool.
Let's take a look at him being tear gas, okay?
All right.
I'm not gonna lie, it stings, it's hard to breathe, and I can tell you with 100% honesty, I saw nothing that provoked this response. It's nasty stuff. I'm not afraid, but I am pissed off.
What are you pissed about?
This is a egregious overreaction on the part of the federal officers. There was nothing that I saw anybody do that warranted this reaction. And all it's doing, as you can see, it hasn't stopped the stuff. So they fired munitions, they fired tear gas. All it's done is piss everybody off even more. It's made people angry. They come in and they cook their hornet's nest. This is not a de-escalation strategy. This is flat out urban warfare. And it's being brought on the people of this country by the President of the United States. And it's got to stop now.
All right, there he is.
I mean, so many times as I'm watching him, I've been getting into, you know, a few various arguments about the whole mask situation, how their effectiveness totally relies on you putting it on your face and not touching it. So
he touches it all the time.
He's like pulling it up and pulling it down. Then the best part is when he drapes it across his face, opens his water, splashes his water, and then pushes it back up over his nose. I mean, if there was COVID on that mask, he just ate it. So, I mean, this is the thing about the masks. Like, it's not just about putting it on. It's not a hat. You know what I mean? It's not like, yeah, I'm protected from the sun. I mean, this thing is meant to stop a virus from getting in your respiratory system, and you're supposed to take it off from your ears, crumble it up, and throw it away. There's people that wear these things for days on end, okay? Days on end. The same mask that they pulled up and pulled down and touched and pushed to the side and hung from their ear or hung from their mirror and turned their air conditioner on full blast while it waves around. I mean, if we were looking at ourselves right now with this whole, you know, mask thing, people are just doing it wrong. If you really don't want the virus, don't touch your mask and don't touch your face. It's so simple.
It is. So, I mean, the mayor was out there to support the protesters.
Yeah, I don't think they support him.
No, we have another video that was going to show that the protesters weren't supporting him at all. So, take a look.
All right.
We just asked that you demonstrate.
Fuck you! Fuck you,
Demonstrate. Hey, check this.
There they are. They were discussing at him, and they told him to leave, booing him.
Yep. Throwing the 1-2 punch of discord out there, and you know, I mean, like we talked about before, these people that are in that crowd, once you kiss that ring of Antifa and Black Lives Matter, they lose all respect for you. They probably actually have more respect for Trump than they do for that guy now. Honestly, because Trump did not back down ever and said he never will back down to them. This guy genuflects to the Black Lives Matter, kisses the ring, and then they're like, yeah, F you. They got the American flag hanging upside down, the distress signal, like the whole nine. Those people are, you'll never win them over. No. They're not going to comply to whatever you do. And I think he's got to wave the white flag and surrender at this point because he's got nothing.
Yeah, he's toast. He's gone. All right. Well, that's the show for tonight. I appreciate you watching. Bill, do you have any last words?
Hopefully these protests don't come to a city near you.
Right. I hope not.
Yeah.
So, I mean, with Trump in office, he's going to make sure the rioting will simmer down or they'll be arrested.
Yeah, and depending on what you do, you could be charged as a terrorist. So using those big fireworks that are explosive on a federal building will get you a trip to Guantanamo.
All right. Can't wait to see that. I want all of them to go to Guantanamo, especially the ones that are very violent. They need to go away for a long time.
Yeah, man. They're willing to do things that I think this is the beginning. It's like to see how far they can push the police. They've already burned precincts. They've already torched federal buildings and assaulted police officers. The next step is the actual murders and killings. I mean that's where we're going with this.
Yep.
So.
All right. Well, thanks for watching. Yeah. Make sure you subscribe and you have a good night.
Good night.